Hello everyone, my name is Brendan Mohammed, and the title of my TED Talk is How Death is Portrayed in Children's Literature. The idea of death and dying is a very important concept for many children to learn at a young age, because it prepares them for an inevitable loss later on in life. I gotta move closer, it's too hard to see.
Okay, so you gotta restart it?
Yeah, how about this?
Okay, just do it.
Okay, yeah, let's just see, okay. The idea of death and dying, is it still if I'm reading?
You have to...
I know, it's still if I'm reading though.
Well, yeah, of course it's gonna look like you're reading. It just doesn't look as bad.
That's what I wanted.
But you have to give like a couple seconds of
silence.
silence.
I just want to make sure it didn't look like I was reading.
It does, but you're reading,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Unless we had those like fancy cameras where it has a script on them, then
we don't have those.
Nope.
Yeah. Okay. So here we go. Oh, I didn't get you in the eye. I know I didn't. Okay, here we go. Hello everyone, my name is Brendan Mohammed, and my TED Talk is titled How Death is Portrayed in Childhood Literature. The idea of death and dying is a very important concept for children to learn at a young age, because it prepares them for an inevitable loss later on in life. As we have discovered in class, one of the best ways children learn things is through the literature that they consume. That is why childhood literature, with the main theme being about death and dying, is so important. In many cases, it is the first time children are ever exposed to death. So while it is sad, it is also a very special thing. I chose 3 different books from 3 different authors to showcase how death is portrayed in childhood literature. I Miss You by Pat Thomas, The Goodbye Book by Todd Parr, and The Invisible String by Patrice Karst. I Miss You is a book that explains what a child might think when someone dear to them has passed. The Goodbye Book is a book that, without mentioning death, explains all the emotions that a child could be going through when they have to say goodbye to someone. The Invisible String is a book about separation and explains that everyone you love is connected by an invisible string, no matter how far away. Each of the books that I chose touch on a different aspect of death and bring new insight to the table, allowing us to look more into how death is portrayed in childhood literature. Death can be a very abstract and scary concept for children to comprehend. And in many cases, parents have a hard time trying to get their children to properly understand death. However, through children's literature, death can be explained in a more approachable and understanding way. In The Goodbye Book by Todd Parr, the author does not mention death at all. Parr explains that when we have to say goodbye, we can go through a lot of emotions, and that they can leave us feeling very confused. But he reassures us that those feelings of anger, sadness, and confusion are okay. Parr tells us that the things will get better and we can start to feel normal again. In I Miss You by Pat Thomas, she does an amazing job literally explaining what death is in a non-threatening way. Thomas explains what happens to the body by comparing it to falling asleep, and she gives different causes of death, like injury, sickness, and old age. Amazingly, Thomas does all of this without pushing any kind of religious beliefs, and simply says that no one knows what happens when we die. Thomas explains death in such an insightful way that not just children, but also adults could gain a new perspective of what death is. I want you to try to think how you would approach a child with the concept of death. You have to be able to explain it in a way that is not scary or depressing for the child, and you have to make it easy to understand. Trying to check off all of those boxes is a daunting task, and something that many parents have to go through. Luckily, through children's books, this task is not seen as hard. There are many children's books that either address the concept of death or explain things people go through when death occurs. Patrice Karst's The Invisible String is a great example of these books. Karst never mentions death in her book, but focuses on a topic that a lot of people go through when death occurs to someone they love: separation. The book follows a pair of twins who get scared during a thunderstorm and want their mother to be near them. Their mother responds by saying that just because she is not physically there, she is connected to them through an invisible string that allows everyone connected to feel the tug of the other's heart. This means that no matter how far away, everyone you love is still connected, even through death. This idea eases the separation, and allows children to be more accepting of the idea. I touched on it a few times earlier on the speech, but the primary ideas for this TED Talk is that childhood literature about death and dying is something that is very important not only to children but also adults. Children do not have to be the only ones to benefit from children's books about death. The whole point of these kinds of books is to provide another perspective, and that is all it takes to help someone come to peace with such a hard topic. We have discussed an example of this in each book that I chose to talk about during this speech. To a child, I Miss You explains what death is in a simple and non-threatening way. But to an adult, it provides a perspective of death that is new and innocent to a child. The Goodbye book describes the emotions that a child could be going through, but to an adult, it allows them to look into what a person might be feeling and give them a better idea on how to help. To a child, the invisible string can help them feel safe and not afraid when someone they love is no longer there. But to an adult, it can help them come to terms with the fact that there is always an end and that we can always be connected to the ones that we love. Unfortunately, death is something that we all have to experience at some point in time, and there is nothing we can do to change that. However, through children's books, many of us can find a new meaning or look at death in a way that we have not before. Of course, children's literature is one of the best ways a child can learn about death, but it can also help adults in ways they never thought it would. So I challenge you to go out and buy one of these books that I've shown in my slides, and go home and read it. Really dwell on it and what it makes you think and how it makes you feel. Focus on the ups and downs and take notes if you want to. I guarantee that you will learn something, and if you have kids, let them read it and see what they say. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk.